This is video 9 or 10, I've lost count, of the series on outcome mapping. Now, in this video, you're probably expecting a lot of detail about the monitoring and evaluating system of outcome mapping. And certainly in the IDRC original toolkit, there were outcome journals and performance journals, etc., in order to try and capture what goes on from an outcome mapping point of view. Now, we'll actually come to that in the next video, some of the details of that, but for this one I want to make sure that you're not going to be disappointed by the next video, because most people think of outcome mapping as a monitoring and evaluating tool. Of course, the emphasis is on impact nowadays, and this is where outcome mapping has really contributed in moving us away from documenting the activities and outputs into thinking about what was the actual contribution of our development project to the change in life of people. However, I said just now that I'm about to set you up for some disappointments, because I think along with that expectation that outcome mapping is actually a new form of monitoring and evaluation, there is an expectation that by this stage in the video series, or by this stage in the toolkit, you're going to have some very whizzy, clever M&E tool that you can get all your staff to contribute to and suddenly have a fantastic answer that tells you how your development program is doing. That the toolkits presented by IDRC are actually a set of boxes that people, with some questions in those boxes, and that people have to fill them in regularly. And so at the end of the day, we're just back to writing down reports, and okay, the report is slightly structured differently, but nevertheless it's that challenge of trying to get our staff to actually write down reports. But this misses the very heart of the outcome mapping toolkit, process, whatever we're going to call it. It's about a different planning process. So what has happened in the previous videos, in the previous process to date, is that we've shifted our thinking from activities and outputs and the very clunky theory of change up into, well, if we do these outputs, if we build a well, we will end up with clean water and people will be healthier. And we've shifted it to saying, well, who's going to build the world? Who are the boundary partners that we have to engage with? And what behavioural change do we want to see in them? Of course, IDRC emphasises that outcome mapping is a possibility for reflection and learning all the way through the programme, so that all the staff are learning about the progress of the behavioural change with the various people involved. And surely, yes, filling in these reports will create some reflection and learning, in theory. In practice, we know that everybody gets very busy and do their reports as a matter of expediency, not as a matter of real reflection and learning. There are exceptions in any generalised statement. I would like to share with you in this video one small idea that we have implemented in Cambodia, which is not exactly tied to outcome mapping, but it works very well with outcome mapping. You'll see here in the outcome journal one suggestion within the IDRC toolkit is to list the expectations, the like to see, the love to see, and then just write down when a group hits that point. I think that's slightly weak, because it doesn't capture any of the process, and the process is then captured in a narrative on a different sheet of paper. In Cambodia, we had a program that was very free-ranging. Communities were trying to, the core of the program was that communities would try to solve their problem and come up with their own solutions, and our role was to facilitate that discussion and to enable them to find their own solutions. But that meant that some villages focused on education, some on health, some on water, some on livelihoods, And there was a wide range of activities that could have happened. And for each activity, we gradually realized there were 4 processes. There was discussion, there was preparation to take action. So the discussion had actually reached a conclusion and they said, let's do something about this. There was action, and then there was some sort of completion. So initially, of course, the focus was on, say, building a school. So they discussed how would they get the cement, how would they get the blocks, the cost of everything. Then they actually took a decision, yeah, let's do this, let's try and raise some money. Then they would get on and people would contribute labour, and then there was the completed thing, a new school. But more importantly, there were actions about staffing. How are we going to encourage good teachers to come to this school? Discussion, preparation of action, and then completion. There were things like, are we going to set up a parent-teacher association? So these then became subtitles, which are subsections of the educational bit on our sheet. And these became nuances of the expect to see, like to see, and love to see. And in each box, we put not a tick, but the date that it happened. So interestingly, that allows the manager to keep an eye on what is or is not going on. So in a particular village, they may have discussed parent-teacher association, and the facilitator may never put down a date for prepared to take action. So then the manager, or in the narrative, you can go to that animator and ask them, what's happening in village Donglong 3? Why are they not moving into the parent-teacher association? Oh, because there's a blockage, and then you can get some narrative about it. But the dates alone tell you quite a lot. They tell you whether things are progressing. They tell you whether there's long gaps between an idea and preparing to take action. Interestingly, they also tell you if there's too short a gap. If the same date of the first discussion is the preparation to take action, and the action is taken on that afternoon, you know that something's wrong. There hasn't been enough analysis, there hasn't been enough discussion. So that reduces the collection of data to a set of dates on a standardized sheet, which is very similar to the outcome mapping expect, like, and love to see. And I would suggest you have to put columns across and dates. Now again, some of you will be thinking, oh, but this is just collection of data, this is not reflection and learning. I accept that. Reflection and learning only comes if you put effort and time into it. You've got to gather your staff, you've got to get them to think together. And from that point of view, actually it doesn't matter what tools. You can have a picture, you can have a random picture and ask people, how does this picture relate to our program? And they will come up with all sorts of interesting things. Oh, you see the Blue River? The Blue River is fed by the mountains. We really feel that we're getting the communities to really feed into, and they're working together, and there's a momentum of change because Donglong 3 is now working with Prekla 2, and they're both working on the same school, and it's like a river that's building up. You can use picture stories, you can use all sorts, and monitoring and evaluation and reflection and learning are a subject in themselves. In this video I have just shared one small suggestion that builds onto the outcome mapping, outcome journal and performance journal that may or may not take away some of the need for writing among your staff.